Part 2, sorry, someone like Roger Penrose does not comprehend the phenomena that he's looking at because he was probably still coming from the perspective of pre-22, where projecting the imaginal line called space-time onto everything was supposed to be a catch-all explanation, or at the very least they were presenting it or you're overusing the term in their physics, educational videos. And so the physicists got arrogant. Very, very arrogant, okay? They got arrogant because atomic theory led to X-rays and a nuclear bomb. They got arrogant because their rockets got into outer space. They got arrogant because they figured out how to blow two clusters of atoms up in the CERN without destroying Switzerland, and figure out how to tell a computer to take measurements of that based on the projections of their previous theories, and occasionally with some room for error to maybe see if something went wrong. Okay, so they got arrogant into thinking that they, like Sheldon Cooper was quoted in that stupid TV show, was saying he's from a science that can tell you literally how absolutely fucking everything works and has always worked and was created why in the first place, right back to the Big Bang. And here we are with the Amy Farrah Fowler argument's reply, which is, Sheldon, it's all a projection of your head, and Amy Farrah Fowler can point to which part of your brain's doing it. Okay? okay, sorry, but you're not perceiving reality beyond the limitations of your human physical vehicle, and subsequently you actually don't know what that reality is beyond that, because that human physical vehicle was required to build those machines to see things beyond the limitations of the human physical vehicle. So you've got these assumptions upon assumptions upon assumptions in your theories, which you've probably been extremely meticulous about, and so you do get credit for that. However, they are really just imaginal projections of your fucking head. Okay? And to which the Sheldon Coopers then go, fuck you, you fucking bitch. Okay, the government's just wasted $200 trillion on that fucking crap. Yes, they have. Okay, so these arrogant physicists then turned around and became, in some cases, the fucking tech bros with the computer fucking programs embedding artificial intelligence. They thought that they could replicate the sentience, okay, including the qualia of all things, of human minds, okay, with their stupid robotics. And then they thought that they'll be really clever working with the military-industrial complex to have a little some fun with nanotechnology, because, being physicists, they knew how to do that too. And so they made these little nanotech things that could be assembled by vaccines, and they started shoving it in soldiers in the 21st century. And then they figured out that they could control them using existing infrastructure, like mobile phone towers and stuff like that, and they just use a sub-frequency or sub-bandwidth or whatever, which is also an abstraction, but nonetheless there is a metaphysical, yet nonetheless exists. This is where it gets so tripped out, okay? A metaphysical, in other words, non-logical, yet still exists signal being sent between one technological device and another. So we're operating on the assumption here that the metaphysical artificial radio waves even exist at all, okay? But they're metaphysical, so they don't exist, but they're nonetheless real, right? Okay, so we're definitely in the territory of what the fuck. And while they're doing that, they have these classifications, allegedly, of these artificial radio waves that then go and talk to the cell phone towers and the mobile phone towers and back to base operations for the cybernetic implants in question. And as a consequence, a national security risk was created when hackers were able to, hack a mobile phone tower in order to disrupt the signal going to the cybernetic implant of one of the soldiers, and it caused a fucking problem. Okay, like an overload or something like that. Now, that type of thing, okay, that type of thing is supposed to show you that metaphysical things, metaphysical means byproduct of physical, so a technological object has as byproduct this thing called a radio wave. What it actually is as terrain or as substance is drastically different from how it's plotted as nanometers or a waveform. So when the Woo Brigade turns around and argues that everything is waveforms, they're a bit silly because they're just saying that everything's fucking egregores or metaphysical, no, not metaphysical, completely non-physical, imaginal constructs of plots of lines on a piece of paper and people's imaginations. Okay, that doesn't actually describe things that were not created by human imagination. Okay, it is a common experience as far as is known that there are aspects of quote unquote reality that exist independently of the observer, such as if you live in a particular type of climatic environment, someone can provide the imaginal information to you that a completely different climate exists, and maybe from the vantage point of you didn't see it so it didn't happen, or pics or it didn't happen, it doesn't exist, but in actuality it does, because when you follow that imaginal map you will get to that terrain, and that beach or that ocean or Antarctica or whatever will in fact be there. Unless everything exists as maps only. What if there's no terrain at all and there's only maps? So now we get into the it's all your mind crap. Okay, projections are your mind crap. So whatever you believe exists is what exists, right? And that then means it's a projection of your mind. Without ever having determined what a mind is yet, because even in psychology and whatever else, that is a airy-fairy term with a wide variety of operational definitions and is a little bit hard to pin down. So this idea that Roger Penrose type characters even know what consciousness is sounds like a load of crap. Okay, the psychologists don't know what it is, so why the fuck would he? So with that, with the projection, so-called projections of mind, okay, so your mind is the little fucking ball in the goddamn fucking cube, is it? Okay, okay, is it projecting? Is it really projecting, or is it just surrounded by fucking mirrors that are creating illusions? Oh wait, is your mind the mirrors? Is your mind the cube? No, wait a minute. No, your mind is outside of that, imagining the cube with the little ball thing in it, the mirror cube with the little ball thing in it, right? Okay? Okay? Did you visualize any of that? What did it look like? Okay? It was completely imaginary. At no point has there been a physical object of a cube shown in this video, has there? And moreover, you've got no proof that this mouth talking to you even exists, okay, in the world of fake AI crap, okay, although this actually is not artificial intelligence. On the other hand, if you're really savvy at doing deep fakes, you probably have stuff like that chucked in it, wouldn't you? Okay, so how's that for gaslighting? Anyway, presumably Antarctica doesn't exist until you look at it. Okay, in a similar way is when a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound if there's no one there to hear it? Yes, it does. If you can presume that something exists independently of the observer, then you can presume that any byproducts of that object or subject's behavior in its environment, okay, would have the consequences that you presume reality to have. The only reason why it wouldn't make a sound if there was no one there to hear it fall is because sound is usually believed to be the perception of oscillating particles, in this case regular air atoms, not fancy weird bosons or quarks, okay, hitting your cochlea basically, okay. So if a tree falls in the forest, okay, does it make a sound if there's no cochlea to pick up on it? Okay, is another way of putting that. Well, what if it's not a cochlea? What if you put a camera in there that can also record sounds? Okay, well, it still exists, but there's no observer except a object that's technological. So when they talk about the observer effect in physics, they're actually talking about the measuring device. They're not talking about the physicist. Okay, they're talking about a camera, not the physicist's eyes. Okay, and so something that seems to be lost on the Woo Brigade, where they started to go around and say, oh, you change the results by measuring it. No, that's not quite what that means either. Okay, it means that different cameras on different angles take different measurements. Okay, so we get back to common sense here and take the woo out of it. All the flash jargon has been put into different places and distorted. So if you physicists can take words like projection or introjection or fucking narcissism, and your Woo Brigade can do it as well, and completely take it out of its fucking context to the point where it becomes unrecognisable even to people who studied it at fucking uni, okay, then we'll do the same thing with your Heisenberg fucking principle and your stupid observer effect and your fucking fourth dimension then. Oh, wait. Even you guys have proven the fourth dimension doesn't actually have to exist for reality to be measurable on some capacity. Maybe is another way of looking at that. So without further ado, we've run out of fourth dimension. Okay? Okay? We're running out of fourth dimension. The fourth dimension has been going on for 12 and 32. Okay? Right? Okay? No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Those numbers they've got, okay, the way the line's designed, it says there's 2 lines to make the 1. There's 3 lines to make the 2. There's 2 dots. Then the 5 has 1, 2, 3 lines, okay? So if you have 2 5s, which is when that was happening, right? Like you count the number of lines based on the numbers that there are at the time. That's how many dimensions there are. Okay, right, okay, for that thing, and it's like, oh, hang on, oh, the number of dimensions changes depending on the shape of the number to represent a dimension that doesn't exist. It's all imaginal. So it's all imaginal, right? Okay, and what's imagination then? Do we know what imagination is? Is imagination just a bunch of talk, a bunch of hokum? It's all made up. Let's give up and say it's all made up, right? Oh, but wait. You keep dropping that pen and you keep stubbing that toe. And no matter how hard you try, no matter how powerful you become or what skills you have, people keep dying. This death thing just doesn't seem to go away. There have been people with very powerful imaginations and a very strong capability for what they call delusion, who've thought very, very hard for a very, very long time. They're not going to die, they're not going to die, they're not going to age. And they did. They went to their grave wrinkly. Okay, very wrinkly. And why is that the case? Does mind control everything? Well, if it did, and then mind, if it's in its original place of total bias would only produce contents that are rewarding and would avoid contents which are punishing. There would be an instinct that is completely unavoidable to gravitate towards reward and away from punishment. And yet, for some reason or another, we fucking do a shit ton of doom scrolling. We gravitate towards fear, which is not rewarding, which is in fact punishing. Okay? So there's a projected emotional component, if you're aware of all the things that are scary, that you might just be able to avoid the source of your fear. But these projections of your mind, people would go, oh, fear is just a projection of your mind. Is it? Okay, so don't point a flashlight at these eyes then and cause them to hurt, okay? Because mind just imagined you doing that. It's not like you actually exist to do it independently of mind. Let's have a solipsist worldview and say we're in control, like, you're in control of everyone else. Well, with Star Trek wheels and Ezekiel wheels, you probably could do that. Unfortunately, that is a considerable possibility. Okay? Right? But you'd be in control of everyone but yourself. Okay? Because the other is greater than the self. Okay? Do you understand? The other is greater than the self under all circumstances. The other is always greater than the self. The other is always plural, never singular. Okay? That is obvious. So these people who talk about the politics of separation, we're all connected. There's no separation between the beings, okay? Full of it. Okay? They're just saying that whoever's in their head that day is totally connected up. Okay? You can, however, be energetically and field-based connected up to everyone and everything else as well, for whatever reason, right? Okay? It doesn't have to be technology. It certainly isn't microtubules because they don't exist. That's already been established. Okay? So just bear with this weird woo talk for a minute. Okay? Right? Okay? So there's no separation, okay? Because there's no space or time, is there? Oh, wait, hang on. Then how come people get older and die, okay? So the way around that is to see that the events on the surface of the black hole, in other words, the mirrors of the cube, are a means to plot the abstract in a concrete and ordered fashion. So space-time doesn't actually exist, so the fourth dimension doesn't exist. There is a mirror construct or cube around a sphere to create the illusion of infinity, as well as to create the illusion of finity. Don't forget that a cube is finite, but the reflection of mirrors appears to be infinite in that particular example. So the illusion of finity and the illusion of infinity are connected to the illusion of mirrors and reflections, and projections and reflections and introjections are difficult to pass through in that context from the perspective of the sphere, particularly if you wind up carrying a bunch of balls that aren't your own, okay? If you were to wind up in that situation, you'd be wondering why you're playing tennis, okay, when you really prefer cricket or something like that. You got a tennis ball, and you got a cricket ball, and you've got a golf ball, and you got a basketball, and a soccer ball, and it's like, nah. Okay, yeah, okay. They're not the right balls. Okay, got all these cubes lined up with these balls in it. Okay, if you collect the cubes accidentally, which apparently is what the 48th dimension is about the system of cubes. In other words, there's many black holes or many spheres in many cubes of that type, and once you get beyond that singular cube, you gain access to the light. And what they've done with that system, the projections they've put on it, is outstandingly evil. Okay? Because they've done that on the basis of their cult logic, which told them that geometry was fact when it's not, which told them that all of reality was a projection of their mind and they were in control of it, which isn't true, which told them that there's a systemic protocol order to things or hierarchy, which there isn't. And moreover, the way they designed those hierarchies was to actually cause harm. So those protocols. The condescension of we're going to make you deal with the 8th chakra when you process that 20 years earlier and you're actually at the 65th chakra, and then alleging that the 8th chakra is the collective root, means that it's brought everyone down to a level that they ought not to be at, and that they call soul sovereignty, that they call the alternative to the slavery of the Jehovah's Anunnaki. Okay? Both of those worldviews, okay, are just that. They're maps, not terrains. When they, by trickery or force, put that onto someone, okay, they are engaging in a lack of respect for sovereignty. Okay, their maths is terrible. Their maps are faulty. They are operating from a place of condescension and disrespect. And when you see it that way, and you see cults and religions as things that are, as maps that are designed to try and get people to believe a structured, ordered noumena exists, when actually it doesn't, despite each and every single spirit in existence of every single type being distinct from one another, regardless of what they do. You need to see the distinctness of all beings and all types. You need to see their independence. You need to see that the maps are not the terrains, and there is not a single cult or religion that has ever been come up with so far that has ever got it right. It is all imaginary lines projected onto a surface, and is no different from the scientism of the fake scientists who used to be physicists, who got caught up in that artifice and that scam that led to the artificial intelligence crap brigade that we now call the tech bro fascist coup. And so the simulation agenda is there to try and convince you that the world did not exist in the first place, that because it was projected from a fucking computer, and you're therefore just an object in that computer game, when you are not. You are a being in a complicated reality that is difficult to comprehend because of the limitations of language and perception and the lack of interoperability of the same between individuals, and as well as tradesmen being responsible for the creation of the tools of measurement and being woefully incompetent. And so, despite that wonderful feeling that comes from knowing that you can replicate the shape of a mountain with your mashed potato and your peas, it is not useful when you're actually bushwalking. And despite the fact that it is a rather amazing feat to be able to imagine how to translate the perception of a mountain into a squiggle on a piece of paper, and that it's even possible for a different individual to use that cartography to actually climb a mountain successfully, it can't help but be noticed that there are a lot of lost bushwalkers out there, and your maps don't fit their terrain, and they don't comprehend your maps, and you have hurt their terrain with your maps. And you ought to be ashamed of that if you are the military-industrial complex in particular who designed those terrible cybernetic implants to put in soldiers in the first place. You should be ashamed of that. You should be ashamed of how the subject has been objectified through pronouns and corporations and other forms of disrespect. You should be ashamed that rather than this 21st century representing a genuine liberation from being used as serfs in the medieval era, we are instead just another generation battling faulty maps in a terrain that doesn't make any sense, while people with no expertise in the subjects that they are talking about are talking absolute crap to befuddle you with buzzwords so you get caught up in their agendas and wind up worse for wear. That is not science. That is not philosophy. That is not wisdom. And that is not liberation. That is in fact cults in operation. And they can all get fucked, and you can get fucked because this one overstepped their boundaries by talking about physics. Well, it's called tit for tat, and you can get stuffed, you fucking mongrels.